Now, Air Canada and its flight attendants reached a tentative deal to end the strike. CBC has learned some details about that agreement, which includes some pay for boarding and cabin secure checks before the flight begins. This unpaid labor part of the job has been a major talking point over the last few weeks. A lot of people this week have been wondering what exactly the job is like for flight attendants and what it entails. And our next guest has a lot of experience in this area. Manon van Wamel is a former flight attendant for KLM Royal Dutch Airlines. A very good afternoon to you.
Hi, Gloria.
Thanks so much for joining us. So what have been some of your reflections as you've watched this labor dispute over the last few days?
Well, I was appalled to hear that they weren't paid for work that they're doing before the flight takes off. I mean, for me as a KLM flight attendant, and this is a while ago, as soon as I put on my uniform, I was working. I got out of the, out of my house, and people see you with your uniform on, and so people ask you questions. You're the face of this airline, of this company, and so you're actually, as soon as you step out of your house, you're already working. And for me, I was taking the train. People, chat to you about where you're going, and then you get to the airport. You do your briefing with the crew that you're working with, and then you go to the airport. You walk on the airport. People see you. They ask you questions. So you are actively working for the airline. You are a promotion for the airline before you even set foot on the airline or on the airplane.
Right. Well, Manon, we're getting a little bit of an idea what could be in this tentative deal. So what we're hearing, I'll just bounce this off you. 60 minutes paid at 50% for those boarding and cabin secure checks, and that's for the narrower planes. 70 minutes paid at 50% for the same work for the wide planes, and apparently that is going to increase by 5% each year. There are also 12% raises for some employees, 8% for others. Now, I know you're not a labor expert here. You don't work for Air Canada, but as a flight attendant with KLM, you've had some experience. What do you think of that tentative deal?
Well, it's better than it was, but it's not good enough because, sometimes something happens. There's something with catering or with baggage or with, passengers or something in the cockpit. A swath of things could happen. And then you're just sitting there and you're working. You're still working with, and when the airplane is loaded, you're sitting there with those passengers and they're asking you questions. You're going to have to put them at ease. Sometimes you're going to have to give them information about what's going to happen after or all that sort of stuff. You're working. You are working for that airline. You're a representative.
Right. And why did you decide to become a flight attendant in the first place?
I wanted more of a steady income, basically, because at KLM you get a monthly salary and then per diem when you are en route for dinners and other things that you have to do. So it was a steady income, but for me it was also still a bit of that magic of flying, and working. I'm a people's person, so I love working with people, and I was already doing that. I was working lots in restaurants, and so working mostly with nice people, traveling, one night having dinner in Rome or sometimes having half a day or a day off in New York. I mean, that's magical. Those are the perks of the job.
Working with mostly nice people. I hear I hear your point there. That's right. No, but I mean,
Yes.
but when we hear about this, and it surprised so many people to hear that these flight attendants with Air Canada and with many other airlines apparently as well are not paid for that pre-flight time. I mean, what other perks are there? What perks are there? I guess that would incentivize someone to accept that unpaid pre-flight work. Do you think?
Um, in all honesty, I don't know whether I would have under these circumstances, whether I would have. And I'm a people's person. I'm from a restaurant family, and I love working with people. But if that security wasn't there and that monthly income, that steady monthly income wasn't there, I don't know whether I would have.
Right. Well, I mean, I guess the incentive, the flight incentives, are those fairly, generous?
Oh, you mean the discounted travel?
Yes.
Um, yeah, but how often do you really use that? I mean, I think for the years that I've flown, I've used it a couple of times. So yes, it is a perk for sure. Um, but it doesn't make up for what you have to do every day, right? The work in itself has to be good and fun to do as well. And you have to be paid for what you do. I mean, if you're being underpaid, why would I smile?
That's a very good point. It's a very how long did you work for KLM, Manon?
I actually worked for KLM for about 12 years, but I was a flight attendant for 5.5. And then I stopped being a flight attendant and I worked at the communications department afterwards.
I see. Okay. It's been interesting just looking at the airline industry. And of course, the dispute here with Air Canada has prompted all kinds of conversations. We've had lots of people writing in, and people say they've noticed over the last several decades just how things have changed in the airline industry. The seats feel smaller. There's less personal space. Sometimes it's bring your own food aboard. Don't expect anything extra from us. Just from your perspective, what have you noticed about how things have changed?
It's fuller. Like all flights are full. Every flight that I've gone on, I'd say the past 10 years or so, they were all full, like really full. Whereas when I was a flight attendant, because this is a while ago, we sometimes had flights where you could just lay down on four on four seats and sleep through the night. Not for me, but for passengers. Yeah, it's a lot fuller, I would have to say.
I see. But just general, the overall experience, like the fuller, the smaller seats and the less service, the cutting down the food, that type of thing? Or that?
It really depends on the airline. We just went to Holland recently, and we flew in a combination with WestJet and KLM. KLM still has great service. What can I say?
Okay. Well, Air Canada still has great service on many flights as well, as
Yes.
do many of our airlines here in Canada. But what do you think is important for us to remember as someone who has worked as a flight attendant, who has watched this dispute sort of unfold? What do you think it's important for the public to remember?
It's a tough job. It is really a tough job. It is hard work. Especially or when you're going on longer flights, they're usually, if you go from here to Europe, it's a 3-day work period with 2 nights, but you basically only get one. And so it is hard work. You work with a lot of people. Some people are stressed, so you have to have good people skills to work with that 50 or 60, 70 people that you have to serve on your flight.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a lot of people that you work with in a small space.
Well, those are really important points to remember. And I'm really glad you were able to join us today. It's just interesting to get that perspective. We've been talking a lot about union versus Air Canada, that type of thing. But as someone who's observing from afar and who's been there, it's good to talk to you. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Gloria.
That is Manon van Wamel, former flight attendant for KLM Royal Dutch Airlines, who's based in BC right now. She no longer works for the airline.